Hello there, and welcome to Project Pixar. This is our 7th entry in the film series, and we will be going into Cars. Cars came out in 2006, and I'm sure Noah will probably agree with me on this, that this was the first time that Pixar was... We realized they could be human or mortal, that, oh, maybe not everything they touch does turn to gold. Maybe they didn't have that Midas touch.
It's probably bottom, if not bottom 2.
Wow, yeah, so that's very low. I think there's definitely some I have below this one, and this is a film that, as I've seen more over the years, I have grown to appreciate parts of it more, but especially coming after my absolute favorite Pixar film, this one was definitely a bit of a letdown. So let's get right into it. Noah, why don't you start us off? Who's your favorite character in this film?
I mean, if I had to choose, I'm just kidding. It's fine. It's Lightning. Lightning McQueen is, for me, probably the best character. Just because he's got the most complete arc of characters, and just seeing him go from that hotshot rookie who only cares about himself and his progress, and it's kind of the humbling and learning that maybe I don't know everything, and until making the selfless act at the end of not choosing to finish the race first, but to help the king finish the race. Lightning is the best character in the film, I think.
Yeah, great choice. I have to comment on that moment, because that, to me, that totally saves the film. Is like the ending moment, climax is fantastic. That this guy was so selfish and so self-centered that he basically makes the ultimate sacrifice in that world for him. He gives up the race. He had it. He could have finished it, and no, he just stopped. He said, "That's not important." And that actually does really warm my heart when I see that. So Lightning is a great choice. He's probably he's right up there for my... I guess I'll put him second, because I'm going to go with Doc Hudson. That's my personal favorite character. I've always liked that old mentor type of character, who helps the rookie out. And again, there's a nice parallel between, that's one of the reasons he goes back and helps the king, is because he doesn't want him to end up like Doc Hudson ended up. And do you remember who the voice actor is for Doc Hudson?
Yeah, it's Paul Newman.
Paul Newman, that's right, yeah. He just does such a great job, and I really like the design of his car, too, as the Hudson Hornet. Just really, really enjoy that character. I kind of wish the film had focused more on that, but we'll get into that later. So, okay, so that's favorite characters. What is next?
What would be your least favorite character or moment?
Oh, man. I'm going to say the entire second act of the film. And I somewhat say it jokingly, but honestly, the more I've watched this, I actually really enjoy the opening quite a bit, when they're in the middle of the Piston Cup and they're racing. Yeah. I find that exciting. And the end, too. It's the whole section of Radiator Springs that, I'll be honest, I just don't care. I don't really care about this town. I don't care about most of the people in it. There's a few, I like Doc, I like Sally, and at times I like Mater. But I couldn't care about, even Guido and Luigi, even though they're kind of funny at times, I just don't care. I don't care about the lady, who owns the gas station, and Ramon, I think his name is, he has the paint station. I just don't care. Sally has this whole speech where she's like, oh, and then they built the interstate just to save 10 minutes of driving. And it's I saw that map. That was not 10 minutes. Let's say, you've got this squiggly, way out of the way road that cuts through the mountains, and you cut all that out, just have this straight line. And I don't know, I think of modern day progress. I'm sorry, as a human who drives on a road, yeah, I'd rather take an interstate that just goes than to go, well, let me go out of my way for 40 minutes. So I do understand what they're trying to go for. I understand the idea of, big tech, big business, yada yada, eating up small town life. I do understand it, but I just don't care. I just don't think there's enough interesting things happening here, and the amount of happenstance that has to happen to even get Lightning McQueen in there is he's got to push his driver so that he's sleepy, and then these random roadster guys have to come and make him drift off the road, which causes a bobblehead, which apparently weighs 50 pounds, to fall on this switch, which opens the back of the truck, which he has to fall out of, which he then has to get lost, and then he runs into a cop car who just happens to have a pipe that sounds like a gunshot going off, but only during that moment. Never happens again in the film, to scare him so he won't ask for directions, to run into this statue, to get caught in this wire, to drag this, like, it's just, as I was watching this time, I was like, oh my god, like, the amount of things that had to happen for him to end up in this situation where he was stuck there and had to fix the road was just insanity. So yeah, that's my least favorite moment is the whole second act. No, what about you?
I mean, you're not wrong. Like the guy says when they're on the road, he says, "We have ourselves a nodder." It's like, well, is that me?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Because I'm starting to fall asleep, buddy. Pretty much from the moment that he gets to Radiator Springs, through the courtroom scene, through like him fixing the road. Not until like close to the end of Act 2, like when he's making his change and he's starting to talk to Sally more and developing that relationship, do I really care at all? Like it's because you're just all that you're subsisting on is Lightning being kind of a for lack of a better word, a prick, and Mater, and just your Mater jokes. Yeah, that's what you get when him fixing a road for 20 minutes. So have fun with that. Once that whole part's done, then it gets better. So that whole section, I just don't care.
And that's most of the movie. So, what about animation? Is there any standout animation in this film for you?
Yeah, I mean, Radiator Springs looks really nice. I was thinking about that too. Like, it's the fact that the cars are so googly eyes and they're very simple in design, so it's not as impressive on a straight up when I'm looking at it like The Incredibles. It's on a completely different league as far as from the eye test perspective, but reflections on the cars and stuff are nice. That's about it.
That was actually going to be my point, is I can't think of a specific moment, but I remember a lot of the lighting reflection on the cars, especially at the races, looked really good. I always thought that looked really nice.
The neon in that one scene.
Yeah.
It was pretty.
What about the first time you saw it?
I was in college, actually. It was my sophomore year of college, and I had my... This is kind of funny. I had my own room, and there was this girl that I liked at the time. So I was like, oh, she's like, oh, I like cars. And I was like, okay, well, I rented it. So if you want to come up to my room, we can watch it together or whatever. She fell asleep 10 minutes into the film. I kid you not. So I was just sitting there watching it by myself, and I was just struggling to stay awake too, I think. So, yeah. So that's what I remember about watching Cars the first time.
I did see this in theaters. I saw this with my friend Mike, and I can't remember if my friend Peter was there or not. And I just gotten a new girlfriend at the time, and we all saw it together, and we all had liked the Pixar films, but you could tell afterwards we're all like, huh, that wasn't so good as their last stuff. But other than that, unlike compared to The Incredibles, which was my previous Pixar theater experience, it was just so meh. Yeah, you could tell the theater around us wasn't really getting into it that much. So it was, while I do remember it, there isn't a feeling I took, those other ones had a feeling attached to it. This one's just that was there, I saw it. All right, what do you got for me?
For musical moment?
Yeah.
Was there anything that stood up for you with that? I mean, the soundtrack's kind of nice.
Yeah, I can't remember it like a lot of the other soundtracks.
I mean, Life is a Highway is kind of nice.
Yeah, that's plays at the end, right?
No, I think it
plays when they're
towards the beginning.
When he's going from the tournament, and then he gets I do like that little moment. That's not too bad. That's a nice little it's showing the vistas. So, okay, it'd probably be that Life is a Highway.
I do like the. I feel like it fits the sentimentality of during the montage scene where Sally's talking about the interstate coming in and stuff like that. I think it's a James Taylor song that's playing, and it evokes that kind of days gone by, forgotten Americana kind of feel pretty well. So I liked that moment. I like from a musical standpoint. Oh no, my favorite moment is the life could be a dream, when they're all just cruising down the road.
Oh yeah,
and, bobbing. That could be a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's that. That's my favorite musical moment.
All right, that's fair. What about your favorite dialogue, or maybe a joke?
Dialogue is not the strong suit of this movie.
Not at all. Which was new for Pixar. Normally dialogue was great for them.
And the only one that stands out to me was Mater say, like, wait, she's your girlfriend? Nah, I'm just kidding. She only wants me for my body. Like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But
there's a Mater joke that I remember because I watched it in college. It was the second time I was in my roommate Alex at the time. Like, he busted a gut when he heard it. So, like, I kind of remember, even though it didn't make me laugh that much, but it's kind of amusing where he finds out Doc had been a former race car and he says, Doc won a piston cup. And Mater says, he did what in his cup? And, yeah, my roommate, he just, like, burst on that. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of amusing. But, yeah, like, there's no emotional moment. There's, like, I do kind of appreciate the riff on the line, you know, float like a Cadillac, sting like a Beamer. Nice little, you know, Ali reference there, but for the most part, there's not really like a big line or anything that sticks out to me. Okay, so this is probably going to be a big section for me. What would you change? Gosh, what could you... So, there are parts of this movie that I think are genuinely good. Like I said, I agree. I think Lightning McQueen has a good arc. It is satisfying to watch him go from the selfish, self-centered person to someone, again, who would literally give up the race he's always wanted to win, the record he's always wanted to hold, just to make sure this guy... at the same time, my other big issue with this movie is that whole Doc storyline. The idea is that, like, Doc was like, he won 3 piston cups in a row, and then he got injured. And then when he came back, nobody wanted him anymore, which is just complete horseshit. Could you imagine that in modern sports? Like, what if Tom Brady got injured a year? Are people, like... I mean, people get injured all the time in sports, and if anything, like, there's always this excitement and hype for them to come back. Nobody's like, oh, he got injured once? Well, he's yesterday's news. Like, that just doesn't happen, so I understand why they had to force that in there, because it does create, again, a nice emotional moment with the king at the end, but it's also just, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that wouldn't happen. And there's just something about the world that's... The fact that everything in this world is a car. Like, even the bugs, the flies are cars. Like, it's weird. There's this moment where they're in Radiator Springs, and he's spending time with Sally, and she's by a waterfall. And he looks at her, and you can tell it's supposed to be, like, the sexy moment, or this moment of, like, wow, she's so beautiful. And it even has, like, her eyes slowly blink and look at him, you know. But she's a car, so I'm just like even in Toy Story 2, like, I know Jessie is obviously a toy, but she's a cute toy, you know, and she is in human shape, so it's like, okay, I can see this is like a cute toy. I can see how her or Bo Peep, you know, could be attractive to Woody or Buzz, but it's like...
You never found a car sexy?
No, not with these big eyes that go, whoop, and look at me, the other, like, it just didn't work for me at all. So for me, like, I would have loved to have seen... I think you could have made a good story about the racing, about this starting race and this ending race, and have Doc Hudson in there, because, again, I like the idea of this, like, old veteran, like, teaching him the ropes. I think there's a good concept there. I just don't care about the Radiator Springs stuff. And if there was a way to make that stuff interesting, I don't know what it was. I really don't. So that would be what I would change, which is half the film. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's 2, for me, big flaws with the film. The first is that it needs to be more focused. Overall, there's a bunch of side plots and stuff like that, like with the Radiator Springs and with the Doc Hudson stuff, with Lightning. You know, there's at least 3 or 4 plot lines going on at the same time, and so it does need to be more focused. You're right. Like, it would have been better if it really focused on the Doc Hudson Lightning McQueen relationship more. The other thing I would say is, like, the side characters are pretty useless. Like, they're just kind of... You're right. Outside of Sally, Doc, and Lightning, the other side characters really have nothing to add. Luigi and Guido have some funny lines, but outside of that, like, they're just stereotypes.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, like, as we've gone through this little Pixar project, I'm thinking about Finding Nemo and how all the side characters in that movie were memorable. And yeah, in this one, I'm just like, maybe that's something that really hurt this movie, is like, in all the other Pixar films, the side characters are memorable, they have a place, but, like, these ones were just so forgettable.
Which is funny also that you mentioned, like, the whole... I was thinking about that too, like, scale in the Cars world. Like, how big is the restaurant and like, how big are their buildings if you have to drive, like, multiple cars inside just to do things? Like,
it's weird. It's weird that the whole world is cars. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it just doesn't work. Is there anything else you would change? Oh, go ahead.
Do they not have telephones in their world? Like, how would they call people?
I mean, technically they did, because he talks to his agent.
They have built-in phones, I guess.
Yeah, and they have big switches they hit their tires on, like
visual aesthetic that they chose for. I mean, like I don't know how else you're supposed to have a world full of cars and stuff like that, but it evokes like the really cheap like kids cartoons and stuff like that, with like the JJ the jet planes and like, and then they did like planes and stuff like that, and it's like definitely, from what I understand, like sold the most merchandise of any Pixar film,
which is crazy. No wonder it got a bunch of sequels.
So I think that drives kind of the franchise, around, but so to speak. So it's clearly it's for somebody.
Yeah.
I guess. And I've seen, like my nieces have. Anyway, they sat there and watched Cars and enjoyed it. So like you said, it's fine. It's not an offensive film. It's just not Pixar quality.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'll give some closing thoughts on it. I've said so much. I want to mention like Chick Hicks. I actually like him a lot as a villain. He just doesn't get to do anything. Like he's like Lightning dreams about him a couple times, but he's really only there at the beginning and the end. But like I think it's Michael Keaton voices him, and he's like he does that really obnoxious arrogance really well. Like, and I love when he like steals his catchphrase. Hey, Kachuga. Like he kind of reminds me of like Sam Rockwell from Iron Man 2. Like he's this knockoff version of Lightning that's like clearly not as interesting or popular, but he tries. He thinks he's really hip. So again, I think that there could have been something cool there, and I love that this guy's like so crummy that he's like, I'm gonna wreck, I will not finish behind you again, old man, and he wrecks the king. And then even though he wins, like everyone boos him. They're like, F this guy, he's no competitor. I think there's, again, a good idea there. I think there are good ideas in this film. I just think it gets bogged down with the wrong stuff. All right, well, we're going to go from Cars. It gave me that worry, but we're going to jump back up in quality with our next one. Bring something to clean, bring something to cook with. Make sure you wash your hands. And I hope you're hungry, because we'll be diving into the kitchen on our next one. That's with Ratatouille. We will see you then.
Ratatouille.
Woohoo! Bye.
Woo!